Hi. Did you know that games are woke now? I can't. Did you know that games are woke now? Every game is woke now. Remember when our games just used to be full of non-political content, none of the woke mind virus infecting our brains, killing everything creative that we love? I'm sorry, I can't do this bit for much longer. The woke mind virus infecting games has kind of been a very, very consistent theme throughout the 2020s for anyone who's interested in talking about games online, specifically in slightly right-adjacent communities on X and also on Reddit. It's just like a lot of disingenuous feedback around what games are and like the social themes and structure within them. Games like Assassin's Creed Shadows have had insane amounts of harassment online from these communities against both actors in each of the games playing certain characters and also the developers and people who work at the companies who develop the games. It's also just led to some of like the weirdest discourse I've ever seen about games that I'm genuinely excited about. Not just limited to these major titles, but pretty much any game across the spectrum. New games like Star Wars Outlaws and games that also haven't even come out yet, like The Heretic Prophet, are subject to just straight up like misogyny and racism and homophobia. And it's just awful. Like, I don't understand why these discussions are even being had in the first place. But the one thing that's constant among people who genuinely believe in these ideas that like games are woke now is that it'll like force them into complete obscurity, like the go woke, go broke sentimentality. Another portion of this is that this is essentially a revival of a movement from the early 2010s called Gamergate, where this one is now more focused on social commentaries and like being inclusive of other sexualities, races, genders, what have you. And they think that it's going to destroy the industry because it's not reflecting their exact worldviews. The other portion of this is that some of the loudest voices on X, but also on other platforms like Twitch, are certain unscrupulous characters that not only are spouting this disingenuous criticism, but also have like other motives and genuinely are some just of the weirdest and also probably disingenuous people to the people in their own communities as well. You can see them right here and here and here and right there as well. Yeah. The best way to understand this is just to try to think about what these actual criticisms are. What about games is woke? What about new titles, old titles alike, trip off the alarm for these people? I'd really just like to take an honest look in a bit of a vacuum and see what these people are talking about. Understand what the criticism even comes from in the first place. Why certain titles are entirely worth throwing out and boycotting when you could be playing something else. Come at this from like a new perspective. Pretend my entire mind is wiped clean and I am coming at games as a newbie. I make a new account on X, Twitch, Reddit, and I go online to see what people are talking about, what games really intrigue them. Simultaneously, I'm also supposing that everyone who says that games are now woke are entirely correct.
Insomniac's always been a very woke studio.
None of this is wrong. All of this probably comes from a place of genuine criticism and genuine appreciation for the medium and wanting to make it a better medium. People have pretty large audiences. They must be right. How do I follow in the footsteps of these guardian angels that are definitely just protecting me and not spreading misinformation and just genuine bad sentiment about games? Well, luckily, I have a list right here. Actually, it's not this list. It's on the computer. The one that you guys are on right now. This list comes from Steam. Steam is the de facto marketplace for online gaming, known by some as the easiest, cheapest way to get games online, and known by members of Congress as the next hotbed of online extremism.
What do you want to hear? And what role, if any, do you believe these four platforms play in elevating or giving visibility to rhetoric that leads to or inspires violence?
We don't know that they are part of the problem.
One thing that Steam is known for is making lists of games and allowing people to aggregate reviews of what they think about certain titles. One such list, with nearly 15,000 followers, is the Woke and Censored Games Alert. There are tons of lists like these on Steam. Woke content detector, like stay away from this thing because it's like too, woke. But this specific list, I think, encapsulates most of the criticisms that I'm trying to unpack. Let's investigate the list and see what games I can play as a spring chicken gamer. All right, so let's start with some AAA games. I think this is probably a safe place to start because, you know, they're the mass marketable types of games. A lot of people play them. They're the most commonly available to people who aren't necessarily into games as a hobby. So it's probably safe, I would imagine, because, you know, you have to appeal to such a wide range of people. I think it's also probably safe to stick to games that have like a recognizable IP behind them. Not necessarily based in games, but movies, comic books, what have you. So I'll start with a really easy one. Let's start with the new Indiana Jones game. I've heard that one's really good. Just a new adventure right when Indy was in his prime. Should be good. Not recommended. Forced a girl boss character into the game in order to push agendas. See the article below. Okay, I guess that means I'll stay away from that one then. You know, that's why we have the list. I don't necessarily think it's that bad that Indy has an intellectual equal that's also a woman, but, you know, I'm not the expert here. All right, let's move on to another game that's maybe not as new, but is still recognizable in the game space. It's Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, which is the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 that came out a couple months ago on pretty much all the major platforms. You know, outwardly, it looks like pretty masculine. You know, Snake is a hard-headed male protagonist. I really feel like that's probably not gonna tip off the woke content detector. And yeah, so let's take a look. And, okay, Metal Gear Solid 3 also not recommended. Eva's jiggle physicians and the X-ray vision mode of her body are toned down. Posters of girls are also replaced with more SFW versions of the same models who are also aged up. Personally, I'm not really sure how I see that's a problem, but you know what? I'll trust the list. Updating a modern game and maybe toning down a little bit of the sexual themes isn't really that much of a big deal for a giant developer like Konami. Like, they're still gonna make a ton of money. I guess I keep slipping up there. I gotta stop giving credit to the gay developers. You know, they're out to get me. So let's stick to the list. Let's do another one. IP focused. You know, that also would probably be pretty safe. I know the indie one didn't seem like a hit, but you know, this one might actually pan out. It's the new Spider-Man game. I've heard it's pretty good. I really enjoyed the movies, so maybe this one will be great. Well, that one's also not recommended. Baby co-developed this game and made Peter a weakened in order to promote Miles Morales. MJ is now ugly and became a brackets strong woman. Other woke stuff like promoting handicapped and LGBTQ people. Okay, I'm not gonna explain that one. It's pretty self-evident about the shit that's in that review. But now I think is the perfect time to do a bit of a brief interlude on Sweet Baby Inc. So I will pass it off to Formal Jackalope right now. Hi everyone, welcome to Formal Jackalope. Today we'll be doing a quick lesson on Sweet Baby Inc. Sweet Baby Incorporated, whatever you want to call it. Sweet Baby Incorporated, or Sweet Baby Inc., is a narrative design studio made up of former Ubisoft developers and writers who set out to create a narrative design studio that lifts up marginalized voices and generally prioritizes diversity, equity, and inclusion in a completely non-corporate way as much as possible. Their inclusion in this video only comes as a result of years of harassment campaigns from members of the Gamergate 2.0 community, generally people who don't like women and minorities in games or feel like it's being shoved down their throats, people who go to visit r/Kotaku in action all the time, or just general bigots who like games at the same time. People in these communities for years have been accusing Sweet Baby Inc. of promoting the woke agenda, changing the course of games all the way as big as Spider-Man, all the way to the smallest indie game, thinking that they have reach all across the games industry. when the reality is that is not the case at all. The movement really started in 2023 with the release of the Game of the Year candidate Alan Wake 2, specifically when people in these communities, Gamergate 2.0, what have you, started looking into the credits of Alan Wake 2 and seeing Sweet Baby Inc. listed as a partner developer, and they put two and two together thinking that, oh, they are responsible for the black female dual lead, Saga Anderson, that starred alongside Alan Wake, and they're making Alan Wake 2 woke. After that incident occurred, it was months and months of harassment campaigns against Sweet Baby Inc., against their CEO, against any person who worked there, against any company who worked with them, just an utter pile of dog shit on Twitter and a bunch of other places. I even thought about including a separate list here called Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, but I really didn't want to do that because even though it has a bunch more followers and it has a bunch more games listed, it's really hard to decipher what the fuck they're talking about. Like, they just have shit here that's like DEI detected level 3, DEI level 2, DEI level 1. What does that mean? I have no idea what you're talking about. It gets to the point of absolute and total derangement.
You need to be an asshole. You have to be bigoted.
People in these communities like r/Kotaku in Action and angry Gamergate 2.0 believers think that Sweet Baby Inc. is some kind of BlackRock level entity. They think that they're like pulling the strings behind every single thing that happens in the games industry, like deciding from who to hire, who to fire, what games get canned. But the reality is that's not what they do, like, at all. They're a narrative development studio. They like work with existing developers to help hammer out dialogue lines, work on storylines. Maybe they do a little bit of massaging where it comes to like lines that maybe aren't super offensive to people of color or women or people of different sexualities. But they're narrative consultants. They're not some kind of corporate overlord. If you want more information about Sweet Baby Inc., what they actually do, and actually how they've responded to the harassment over the past 5 years and dispelled the rumors around what they do and how they operate, I highly suggest you check out the following article here by Nathan Grayson of Aftermath. It's a very, very detailed write-up. It goes into interviews with members of Sweet Baby Inc., and I highly suggest you check it out for yourself. All right, interlude done. Back to Informal Jack. Thank you so much, Formal Jack, for that brilliant explanation. So it's pretty clear that AAA games that maybe have like super strong protagonists, well-defined, well-written, I suppose in this case, are more beholden to corporate interests and everyone else other than individual developers. I think maybe this is a perfect time to switch over to indie games. So maybe this smaller teams with a more, focused mindset will have a better chance of not tipping off the detector here. So I'm looking at the list right now, and there's like a bunch of them that also are not recommended. Coral Island has political flags in the game. Don't really understand what that means, but okay. Caravan Sandwich has political flags. Okay, I still don't know what political flags means, but don't really understand that again, but all right. Myth Wrecked, race swapping Greek gods and forced multiple woke stuff. Hades 2, race swapping the Greek gods and made one of them fat in a wheelchair. You really just like had to harp on the fat thing again. Why is that bad? Why is that bad? Why is the wheelchair thing bad? Why is race swapping bad? Here, it's pretty clear that indie games also really tip off the woke content detector. Importantly, indie games are vital to the gaming ecosystem. They are the ones that introduce the new ideas into the system on a more small scale. They help revitalize certain genres that maybe are experiencing lulls in recent years. They're very important. Some of my favorite games of all time are indie games. It seems that games that are smaller in scope and more focused in concept with smaller teams are not spared from the woke content detector, the woke games list. So, I guess I'm not playing those either. All right, so if the well-known IP-focused games are off the table, that have like strongly written protagonists that maybe are too woke, and then the indie games on the other side are also not on the table because they, are too woke. Let's think about games maybe that haven't even come out yet. Like, I have a hard time believing that the woke and censored games will have a problem with those because there's not a lot of details about them other than like the concept and maybe a few gameplay trailers here and there. So let's like take a look at some games that aren't even out. You can't play any of these either. All right, so 007 First Light comes out next year, by the way. This version of 007 has been rewritten for the modern audience. They avoid his classic traits such as alcoholism and womanizing, claiming they're outdated traits. Outer Worlds 2 features characters that look like they checked all the boxes. Look at the trailer on the store page and you just know. I don't just know. I don't know. What are you talking? What does that mean? I'm just like really confused at this point because these games haven't even come out yet. I'm just not sure what the people who are writing reviews for this list even can gain from the limited amount of gameplay and trailers that have come out about certain games, that they can even begin to write a review or not recommend a game off of this little information. Okay, I guess. I don't know, like maybe they're looking out for me. They just gotta have a really sharp eye for anything that's out there in the future. Let's move on to games that I am sure aren't woke. Let's talk about games that allow you to create your own character. Games that have no forced diversity because you literally get to pick what character you want to play as. You get to customize it pretty much infinitely. I think I could maybe play some of these games. Hopefully, I mean, I'll just take a look, but I'm really sure that I can play these games. Oh, what the fuck? So Oblivion Remaster that came out this year uses the term body types. Outfits for female characters have been toned down to be less revealing. This even applied to statues in multiple locations. Okay, well maybe it's just the one game with the character Avowed has pronouns in character status window. So maybe we don't even pick a game that has combat in it. Maybe we don't even pick a game that has like customization at all. A game that will literally not be able to show the outward physical characteristics of a character that you build yourself. I think I'm going insane. So maybe we just pick a game that isn't focused on any of those aspects at all. Microsoft Flight Simulator. You can't choose gender when you create your pilot. There are 3 body types and you can pick male or female hairstyles and voices for any of the body types. Microsoft Flight Simulator? Are we being serious right now? Are we? Okay. This is my last straw. I will find a game on this list that is a mainline release that is not woke. It got me thinking, what is the one type of game that will definitely not tip off any red flags? And then it hit me. Straight, white, male, cis protagonist. That has to be it. That has to pass every time. It has to. It just has to. Finally, I figured it out. An answer to a game that I can finally play. I'm so excited to experience the joys of gaming, knowing I'm free from the woke... Formal Jack here again. Nice to be with you again. Really glad that I get at least one more instance of screen time before Informal Jack puts me in the closet forever. I have quite a treat for you because I have done some statistical analysis on all of the answers of not recommended or informational reviews on the Woken Censored Games Alert Steam list. This is the first time I've done something more mathematical on this channel. I have not looked at an Excel spreadsheet for something other than writing words down in it for quite some time, and I hope you'll bear with me. I have decided to break these games down into a few categories to help understand why the Woken Censored Games Alert decided to recommend them, or rather not recommend them. So I'm going to read out the categories for you right now, and each will probably go into a little bit of explanation if they're not super evident by the one word. Girl bosses and uglified women. Basically, people here don't like it when women aren't hot, so that's what that category really means. Pronouns, that one's pretty self-explanatory. Political flags. Political flags usually here are pride flags, but sometimes it can mean something else. Most of the time, they're just pride flags, though. Character creator body types. That just means when you go into character creator in a game, and instead of seeing male or female, it says type A and type B. Homophobia, self-explanatory. Racism, self-explanatory. Sweet Baby Inc., any review that mentions Sweet Baby Inc. by name. Censorship of sexual content. This is gonna be a real like head scratcher, I think, for you in a little bit. A lot of the games that this list ended up picking are lots of like anime adjacent / weeb games that have like slightly naked girls on them. But I won't be showing any of that, of course. Bad translations, quote unquote, bad translations / localizations. That usually means if a game has been translated from like Japanese or another language into English, that those translations have included more westernized dialogue. By westernized, they mean dialogue that isn't offensive to women, probably, and to minorities as well. And finally, probably the most expected, but also least expected category, actual criticism. You might be saying, it's great that you've mapped out all these categories for us, but can you apply them to each of the games that exist already? And I said, yes, of course I can. Do I have anything else better to do with my time than do this? So here are 270 of the games that are on this list right now. All of these games have either been not recommended or have an informational review next to them. There are lots of games from lots of genres. How many? You might ask, how many genres? How many games in each genre? Well, good news for you, I have a chart. JRPGs dominate the list with a whopping 21% of the games listed here, which is an apt number because of the kinds of content that these gamers actually do like in their games is kind of more 21 plus / 18 plus than you'd really realize. If you go into the list, you'll get a good idea of what I'm talking about, because I can't possibly list all the stuff on here without maybe getting demonetized and also maybe going insane. RPGs and action games round out the other top 3 categories because, as you might imagine, they kind of lend themselves to certain categories like body types in character creator, pronouns, which also happen in character creators, and action games by themselves also generally have very well-defined characters, many characters and many traits of those characters that certain people may not agree with on a principled level, like being black or being a woman. I also took the liberty of graphing every instance of these games over the past 15 years with another show-stopping chart. You're getting about one woke game a year until 2015, and then it really starts to climb a little bit, and then by 2020 it really skyrockets to like a peak of 2025, which is 54 games. There are a couple of games, as you have seen, that haven't come out yet, but the fact that those are greater than the one per year is not great. Granted, a lot of these trends are pretty much due to sampling bias, but I do think it's kind of funny that we have reached like woke game carrying capacity in the year of our Lord 2025, because as we know by the current political climate and the climate that other gamers have around certain things, we reach peak woke, guys. The wokeness is off the charts. Despite the other things that I've shown you so far in this giant list of games, is there a better way to look at it? Maybe by reason of criticism? Would perhaps a chart fix it? Anyways, here's a pie chart with all of the games that are on this list sorted by reason for criticism. To my utter surprise, censorship of sexual content was the #1 reason that games were flagged as woke. I am honestly so baffled by that, considering the amount of heinous crap I saw in the reviews for these games that weren't necessarily flagged for sexual content. Like, oh my god. Some of the stuff is really, 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 really bad. Following that is bad translations. I think it kind of goes into the oversampling bias of the JRPG genre in general. If you take a poll across like an equal sampling of games across a variety of industries, across a variety of genres, you're not gonna get bad translations as a major reason why. And then after that, it was the following. Girl bosses / ugly women / misogyny, racism, political flags, Sweet Baby Inc. And if you look really, 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 really close, there's the actual criticism category sitting at 1.2% of entries. 1.2%. That's not great. Besides the early conclusions that I drew about the fact that most of these people who write woke game reviews, are really horny, and they're expressing it through the medium of writing reviews about video games, which, you know, I suppose we all need a creative outlet. I wanted to draw a couple more conclusions. Conclusion #1. these people who write these reviews really, really don't like gay people. Like, if I had the foresight of putting every single category that could technically fit under homophobia under one category, including pronouns and body types, I meant if I kept everything in the same category, it would dominate the list. It would have a third of the votes. That is insane. They really don't like the fact that games, for some reason, want to have body types instead of genders or sexes. I really don't think that's that big of a deal. It's one decision you make at the beginning of the game. The second conclusion is that the amount of games that I had to put into the miscellaneous category is a lot more than I really thought that I would have. And that's not because of the fact that I did a bad job making the categories. I did an excellent job making the categories. Don't you ever fucking think that I didn't do a good job. But it's more due to the fact that some of these reviews really just don't fit. Like, I don't understand. Like, I'll read a few of them to really give you an idea. Some reviews were kind of just vague. Like, for example, Marvel Spider-Man's review. Forced Western political agendas. This could really be any number of things. People in the Gamergate community like to point to Western political agenda as like a blanket term for a bunch of different things like racism, homophobia, you know, like fat phobia, gender roles, what have you. Some reviews were also just very singular in topic, and I had no idea where to put them because they didn't fit into a category. Like, for example, Iconoclasts. This game takes a very strong stance against religion, with the main villains of the game being leaders of a cult, with obvious Christian influence, ruling over a dystopian society with an iron fist. I had no other games that had criticism of religion as a relevant thing. This one just didn't fit into a category. But also at the same time, you complaining about a Christian cult. Have you ever played Assassin's Creed? Some reviews I just can't explain in words. Like Dustborn. There's a guy knitting in the trailer below. Yeah, guys, knitting is now woke. Sorry, I regret to inform you that knitting is now in fact woke. I gotta take off my woke socks, my woke blazer, you know, it's my woke shirt, because all my clothes are woke now. I really just cannot afford to be wearing anything anymore because you know, the concept of weaving textiles is now fucking woke to some people! And some were just too bad, too completely outlandish to fit into any one category. Behold, I present to you the remastered GTA San Andreas game review on the Woke and Censored Games Alert. They removed the Confederate flag from this version. So with all of that out of the way, the owners of this list have now prevented me from playing over 270 games. 270 games I can't play anymore. They're too woke, I can't play them. So it really begs the question, what can you play? Out of the 304 games that are on the Woke and Censored Games Alert list on Steam, only 30 of them are recommended. It's an interesting selection, to say the least, but I think this particular selection says a lot about the sensibilities and, I guess, the values of the people writing these reviews. Not all these games are bad that are on the recommended list. They're not even like overblown in their anti-wokeness. Like, some of them are like pretty decent. For example, Red Dead Redemption 2 and Nier Automata. Both of these are quality titles that have won lots of awards at various game award shows. They have broad fan bases and they're critically acclaimed. I still haven't beaten RDR2, but I really want to, so it's pretty great that this game is recommended on the Woke and Censored Games Alert. But the review itself still feels off. While the protagonist seems to be neutral when it comes to politics, they let the player choose or support or antagonize NPCs that want to talk politics, which give freedom to the player. Same with Nier Automata. This game is full of fan services, and the producer, Yoko Taro, is also a supporter of fan services in video games. This fact of fan service being a major portion of these reviews, combined with the leading critical category of games being that it censored too much sexual content, really starts to peel back the layers of why certain games on this list are recommended. And it kind of gets a little bit worse outside of RDR2. Nearly every single other one of the reviews for the games that are on this list are focused about games that are mainly anime adjacent, that allow you to interact with cute girls and slightly sexually revealing outfits. It's just, I don't know. It's like, and also like how many NSFW things you can actually complete in the game. I don't understand it. Like, look at Way of the Samurai 4. This review kind of tells you everything you need to know. You can Asian-style night crawl into women's bedrooms and have fun with them, plus a lot of other erotic content. Surprisingly, the game is uncensored, despite being published by Ghostlight. The main thing is like, what the fuck? Why? Like, I don't get why these are the games that are considered not woke, and these are the games that these people are limiting themselves to play. Only games with sexy anime girls are the ones that you're allowed to play. Yet, I still think that the best example of what is wrong with this review process, the entire thing, the entire list, is encapsulated in one review. I know a bunch of the other reviews were like racist, homophobic, misogynist, you know, what have you. It has every single type of bigotry under the sun. What these reviewers and the people who really subscribe to the beliefs of Gamergate 2.0, it really can be encapsulated the most in the Woke and Censor Games Alert review for Black Myth Wukong. Black Myth Wukong kind of became a bit of a prince that was promised for the Gamergate 2.0 community because they resisted the temptations of Sweet Baby Inc. in the sense that they didn't work with them. It's certainly like overblowing the story because a company not working with another company really is like a non-issue. Sweet Baby has the discretion to work with anyone that they want to, or anyone that will like offer into a partnership with them. When a game is at a certain point in the development cycle, the studio either reaches out through a publisher or they reach out proactively and they end up making a deal around this. Tinfoil hat conspiracy theory around this is that Sweet Baby Inc. reached out to Game Science, the developer of Black Myth Wukong, and tried to extort them of $7 million in guidance fees. None of that is true. Every single part of the interaction has refuted this claim. Even though there is actually no any fucking proof of this, it still holds true because they want it to be real. They want this one game, this AAA game that was a Game of the Year contender, to be the game that resisted the woke agenda. But what really grinds my gears is the fact that the only thing that makes this game playable to people is that it's not woke, is that it threw off the yoke of the woke agenda. No mention how it was the biggest hit from a Chinese game studio in over a decade. No mention that how it was a Game of the Year candidate. No mention of that it was the fastest selling game on Steam of all time for the first week of release. None of that matters. And I know that's the point of the list, is to like nitpick and cherry pick certain games from being included, but that flawed premise is really, really evident in this one review and all the other reviews as well. Long story short, can you just enjoy a video game? Please? just try to enjoy the game. I don't know. Ultimately, I think what the onus for this list is just a reduction of games into products. It happens all the time in creative fields. The idea that behind these reviews is that this is not worth your time, this is not worth your money because of this one aspect. It doesn't matter if the game is $20, $30, $50, $60, $70 to buy a game that doesn't reflect your worldview. Is it worth it to do that and more if you don't think that the game will be ultimately pleasing to you? That is what this review system is, and not more of a holistic review of, is the game good? I would argue that it's always a good time to try to expand your mind, expand your creative sensibilities by playing games that may not necessarily, you know, appeal to you right away. Sure, not every game is going to be some kind of deep philosophical exploration of the human psyche or a guided meditation through the experience of a marginalized group. But there will and should be some elements in games that reflect people who are not you, who do not have the same lived experience as you. If you think that DEI is bad for the same reason that you think that DEI is bad in the corporate world or elsewhere, you are arguing on a flawed premise. If you think that these characters or this fictional world or something else like that was forced into a game because they had to check boxes, that is incredibly, incredibly stupid. This is what real life is like. You will see people who don't look like you, who don't have the same lived experience as you. You will see people of different races, backgrounds, sexualities, genders, what have you. Why can't their experiences be reflected in games in the same way that yours have? And if you don't want to look at it, too bad. Don't buy the game. I don't know. That's the other part of the equation. If you're evaluating these games as products, as commercial entities, that contract goes both ways, my brother. You don't have to buy the game. But even worse than this is such a detractor for games as an industry because it is also blaming games for being bad for the wrong reasons. I can talk for hours about why I think that Assassin's Creed Shadows is a bad game because of its bloated mission design and bad writing, but anytime I enter into discourse online about the game, it devolves into racism, like, extremely quickly. That is so bad. All of this is really just smoke and mirrors for these people, because these criticisms are not real. They're not real criticisms of the games themselves, but they're calling cards of warped moral compasses of the people writing reviews like this. And I know that this is smoke and mirrors because they also don't care about making video games a more sustainable and healthy industry. Stagnant wages for developers, the incessant need for AAA game studios to buy up indie studios by the dozen and then cancel their games and then sell those studios off for pennies on the dollar, the crushing reality of crunch for a lot of AAA game development cycles, and the ever-growing influence of private equity and foreign money being funneled into games studios, including, most recently, the acquisition of EA by the Saudi government. None of that matters. None of that matters. None of the real problems about games media or games in general matter to these people. The real purpose of this video is to show that this review process, this warped idea of what the current games industry offers to you, the player, is not some way of shorting you at every turn. Games get better when you try to take them at face value, meet them on their level. Games get better when other voices are included. Games get better when it's not racist, it's not homophobic, it's not misogynist. Games get better when your life, yes, your life, is reflected in the games that you play. Games get better when you encourage other players, not discourage them. I hope at least some of you will take some kind of lesson from this video. I hope. This list sucks. Go look at better lists. There are tons of them out there. Go subscribe to games media that actually is sustainable for journalists and other people. Go buy indie games. Go do things that make games a more healthy industry. And don't contribute to this, like, piece of shit, like, bigoted, warped view of what games are. And instead think about what games can be. This is a bit of a different style of video for me. Just trying things out, you know. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe, you know, do all those things. Let me know what your favorite part of the video is. Let me know if this is something I should keep doing in the future. More on-camera stuff, more like investigations, if you will. Still coming out with criticism, but, you know, wanted to shake it up a little bit. Thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.